Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Hunter, and I will be doing a report on Common Core for my current events project, respectfully submitted to Ryan Gritter. The title of my project is Common Core Failing to Pass the Grade. Today I will explain to you the brief history of Common Core using the 1st to 5th grade as segments for the presentation. So in other words, I'm going to be using the elementary school grade levels as a way to compartmentalize the topics that I will cover in my presentation. The 1st grade will cover its inception and acceptance. The 2nd grade will cover governing bodies. The 3rd grade will cover early struggles and its being a thorn in two past presidents' sides. The 4th grade will cover its downfall with teachers, administrators, and the general public. And the 5th grade will cover the light at the end of the tunnel. I will now begin to educate you in the 1st grade of Common Core. And again, my topic, Common Core, the subtitle is Failing to Pass the Grade. The 1st grade, Inception and Acceptance. Common Core began around the mid-1990s. It was seen that students were not getting enough skills to succeed in college or in the workforce after graduating high school. The high school diploma was seen as just a piece of paper, that there wasn't much traction going on. So groups of people began to get together and try to figure out a way to make more rigorous standards for passing all the different grade levels. The initial concept was to make more students be able to compete successfully in the job force and have better skills going into college. But then the structuring of that is you've got every grade leads up to the 12th grade. So every K through 12 student was envisioned as being a part of this Common Core standard. They weren't using the term Common Core back in those days in the 1990s, but various groups were working on what would later become the Common Core. As it was then and to this day, it still covers just math and language arts. So for some reason, I'm not sure why, they decided to not cover science or social studies in the Common Core standards. Although I've heard that there's been some change recently in the arts standards that they may be trying to, or may already have developed some Common Core arts standards. But as this presentation will show, and I think the way the country is leaning in general is to try to do away, to get rid of the Common Core. So we'll see, like I said, how it fails to pass the grade. So we're still in the 1st grade now. People wanted these standards to be consistent across the states. So about 42 exactly of the states accepted the Common Core, while 4 never adopted the Common Core, 1 partially adopted, and 3 adopted but later repealed the Common Core standards. And its inception and acceptance was something that was done at a state level. So that dovetails nicely with our 2nd grade, the governing bodies. The U.S. Department of Education has some kind of a role. It's kind of nebulous how they interact with the Common Core, which is a state concept. But there's a group, the National Governors Association, NGA, which is designed as a collective voice for governors across the nation. So we're getting into that gray area of Are we dealing with, states, or are we dealing with a federal, meaning like a common voice for the whole country? But anyway, the founding governing body for the Common Core was the National Governors Association, which is designed to be like a unified voice for all the states, almost like a national voice for the states. There was also something called the Council of Chief State School Officers, and these were public officials who had leadership roles for public education in the elementary and secondary schools, and they were most then and to this day now are most famous for the Teacher of the Year award. So the NGA and the Council of Chief State School Officers was those two were the primary incubators for the Common Core and remain the governing bodies for those Common Core. Again, it's an important distinction to make that it is a state agency. These are state agencies, but it's really nebulous how much control the federal government has over them, and we will see that as we get a little bit deeper into this presentation. And as I've said before, there were 4 states that never adopted it, so as well as one only partially and 3 later repealing it. So this is by no means a unified voice in the literal sense of the term, even to this day. Let's move on now to the 3rd grade. Here we'll get a little deeper into some of the nebulous nature of how the federal government and state governments work together. People started struggling with the Common Core early on because there was funding issues based on the No Child Left Behind Act passed by George W. Bush, and it was questionable whether some of these schools should have their funding revoked or not for not passing the grade, not meeting the standards. President Obama tried to actually he did replace it with it was called the Every Student Succeeds Act, passed in December 2015, which is still in place. But again, the question of how the Common Core interacts as a state agency with the No Child Left Behind or Every Student Succeed acts interacted on a federal level, it's very nebulous. It's hard to see how they play off of each other. And furthermore, there was sentiment in the country that people were soon starting to realize that educating everyone the same way across the country was a ridiculous proposal to begin with. It was absolutely ludicrous to think that we should educate a child who may have a proclivity towards arts living in New York, who may thrive on arts training, to try to educate them with the same common curriculum as a student who maybe is living in Oklahoma, where there's major oil drilling business and may need more science, geology, and other of those so-called rock solid skills, so to speak, that they may need to use for oil drilling. So people started to find out that it was ludicrous to think that across the country we should all be educating our children the same way. And people started realizing how much time all of this was taking. The estimate is that for the average high school student, they will spend 10 days of the year just taking the standardized tests. So you can imagine it probably for every hour they're taking the test, at least 8 hours or more, the teacher's going to be preparing for them for that test. So you could easily say that half the school year, if the school year is about 165 days, 80 days, just preparing to take these standardized tests. So people started seeing that this was ridiculous. And like I said, it was a thorn in these presidents' sides because they tried, George W. Bush did this No Child Left Behind, which was a failure. And then Obama tried to or he did actually replace No Child Left Behind with Every Student Succeeds, but it still hasn't really gotten any traction, and people don't know what's going on with that. So as of right now, we can pretty much safely say it's failing. But there's a big problem because the Common Core is not controlled by the federal government. So as much as these presidents want to try to get rid of it, it keeps becoming a thorn in their side. No one really knows for sure how these Common Core and Every Student Succeeds or No Child Left Behind agencies are interacting. I've heard that some of these schools were given waivers by Obama, and then it just is a really complicated political mess. So, like, since Common Core is not under federal control, it's sort of like herding cats to try to get rid of it, because there's no one person that you can just go to and point the finger and say, hey, we're tired of this. So this moves us on to the fourth grade, where we're starting to see a downfall with teachers, administrators, and the general public. The one-size-fits-all curriculum drains teacher initiative, according to Mary Brady, a teacher in Maine, and Patrick Murray, an elected school board member. We can already see, even in our own class, there's a general sentiment that teaching to the Common Core is it's a waste of teachers' time. There may be some need for some standardized testing, sure, but the situation has gotten out of control. The new movement nowadays is to get rid of Common Core, and you'll see that in a Trump administration, there's going to be more movement towards getting rid of the Common Core. Now, I'm not here to advocate for one political party or one political person. I'm not saying I'm pro-Trump. I'm not saying I'm anti-Trump. And I hope as educators you can also refrain from any, most likely strongly anti-Trump sentiments. But let's just look at the facts. I don't think anyone likes the Common Core, and we are trying to get rid of it, and that is one of the policies of our president at this time. So this has been my presentation on the Common Core. It's failing to pass the grade, and I will close with one quote on the screen by our current president, Trump, to sort of crystallize how this current event maybe sheds a light for some people who might be tired of Common Core as well, as far as having a light at the end of the tunnel. So with that, I'd like to thank you and wish all of you students good luck with your class. And to our teacher, thank you for providing us this opportunity, and thank you for your time in listening to my presentation. I am Justin Hunter, and I am signing out.